Two wrongs don't make a right. I remember my Scottish grandmother telling me that at our kitchen table, and almost instantaneously my grandfather chipped in with, but yes, two wrongs don't make a right, but three lefts make a right. It took me a while to realize that I'd inherited this bizarre quirkiness and poor sense of humor. But when I did, I embraced it. And what I found is that most of us would love to care about something, or do care about something, and most of us don't do anything about whatever that thing is. Like, you've all heard of the sort of global grand challenges that are out there: climate change, disease, poverty, all that sort of stuff. And one of the reasons why we don't do stuff, or we apparently don't appear to do stuff, is that we're kind of stuck in a rut. We go from one side of something to another side of something. So for instance, happy, sad, there's a spectrum there. You know, we're a bit bipolar, or at least I am sometimes. And we tend to say, well, if I'm sad, then I need more happy to make me, you know, less sad. And we get stuck in this rut. We go back and forth between the two. When the answer to being sad has actually nothing to do with happiness. In my view, and according to research, the answer to sadness is productivity. You can Google this. There's a great book by Dan Gilbert, Stumbling on Happiness. Have a look. Why am I saying this? Because the answer to an intractable problem is actually not on the line between happy and sad. It is a left turn. It is perpendicular to that rut that you might be in, or that I might be in. And that's interesting to me, because if you really care about something and something's not happening, it's probably because a left turn is needed. So I'll give you an example, practical example. Many years ago, 5 years in fact, this young fella came to me, and as an investor, I get a lot of people come to me for money. And this young fella came to me, and he came to me with a very different story. See, a lot of the time, the stories I get are, I've got a great idea. It's Uber for cats, or some other thing. And I go, great, that might be a great idea. Tell me about your team. And they go, well, we've got a marketing person, and we've got, a promoter, and we've got a CFO, and a CEO, and a COO. And we're building this great new technology. And I go, great, how many engineers have you got? Oh, we're going to outsource that. This is like going, building a gourmet restaurant and saying, oh, we don't need chefs, we're going to outsource the food to McDonald's. It's just across the street. Drives me bananas. Anyway, so this young fella comes in, and he's just doing his leaving cert, and he says, I've got this great idea, I'm going to network all the buses in the world, because I can scrape down all the information and I can create this giant digital bus map. Oh, well, that's kind of cool, transport solutions, blah, blah, blah. I said, how many developers have you got? He said, 3, including myself. 3 hardcore techie engineers. Don't have anyone else, don't have a CEO or anything, but I have 3 engineers. And by the way, we've built the prototype. It works. And I'm like, how do you, at just 18, have 3 developers? And he said, oh, that's easy. I taught them. What do you mean you taught them? Well, this guy, James Walton, had started a computer club in his school to actually have other kids learn how to program. And the reason he did it was quite interesting. Anyone heard of the Junior Spiders? This is Web Awards from Aircom. Well, he won a Junior Spider Award. And the school principal at Pres, which is a nice school in Cork, actually announced, hey, congratulations to James Walton for winning a Web Award. And this caused seeking behaviour. All the kids in the school started seeking out the nerd, not to beat him up, but to beg him, how do you make a website? And so, generously spirited as he is, he started the computer club, and he was teaching kids how to code, and he'd recruited 2 of those into his business. And I said, wow, you must be proud of that. And he said, no, I'm really sad. And I said, what do you mean you're sad? He said, I'm just completing my leaving cert, and they're shutting the club down because there's no one in the school to run it. This was 5 years ago. Now, the look on my face must have been odd, because he looked at me like I was crazy, because I was like, ah! And I had this really amazing realization. You see, if a really good school in Ireland has no computer-capable teachers to even teach basic coding, that would be indicative of a really big problem. And guess what it was? I picked up the phone, I found there were no schools anywhere teaching coding anymore. And this is a tragedy, because coding is a language skill. You need to learn it young. You need to be fluent. Actually, you need to be a native speaker in code. The best coders are poets. They combine creativity with economy of expression. That is poetry when you do it in language. And guess what? We haven't been building them, because our school system completely failed to equip 2 generations of kids with the ability to code. If you learn it when you're in your 20s, it doesn't work. You need to learn it young. So I said to James, hey, listen, what if we were to get a venue for free? Would you continue? I'll work with you. Would you start up a club outside of the school? And he said, Bill, you're crazy. Nobody gives away stuff for free. I said, watch me. And here's the thing. Up until then, the idea that you would learn to code in a group environment informally didn't exist. This is a left turn out of the education system. And yet it worked. I rang up the National Software Centre and I said, guys, you're the National Software Centre. Give me a room for free. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. And I said, why? I've got something great. And they said, what are you going to do? I'm going to teach all your kids how to code for free. They said, great, so turn up next Saturday. And we did. And by the way, if you're creating something that is a left turn, make sure you give it a good brand, because people are scared of the left turn and they need a name. And I promise you, Coder Dojo would not have worked if we'd gone with the original name, Saturday Morning Programming Club for Kids. Right? Just would not have caught on. But Coder means programmer, and Dojo means temple of learning, like martial arts. So we gave it a name, Coder Dojo, and we spent months figuring it out. And guess what? It worked. 5 years later, we're heading towards our 1000th dojo. We're in 80 plus countries. We have tens of thousands of kids a week learning how to code and really learning it. Like, they're getting good. They're winning awards. They're starting businesses. They are doing great. And they're in fact even doing well in school. But the thing that allows us to do it is what I call a reciprocal solution. You see, businesses have a problem. Right? They have a wrong. They don't have enough coders. And kids have a problem. They have a wrong. There's no one to get them to code. They can't learn it. And those would be intractable problems by themselves. But if you combine them, you get a reciprocal solution. The businesses have resources that they can give to coders who want to learn to code. And the kids have resources. They have themselves, they have their time, their care and attention. And simply by combining the two, suddenly you have a solution. Now, in the case of Coder Dojo, it is a charity. We do it completely philanthropically. No one pays any money. Right? It is not for profit. But that doesn't mean it couldn't be. You know, you could make any business work using the resources of one problem and the resources of another as a reciprocal solution. And this is what I'd really like you to think about, is where in your life are there potential reciprocal solutions to intractable problems? And where in your life could you get out of the rut with a left turn into something else? So I'll give you another example. I have launched a new charity called In Homing. Why? Because I see an intractable problem over here, homeless families, and an intractable problem over here, old people dying alone horribly. Aging alone will kill you far more thoroughly than cancer and far more horribly. Loneliness is one of the leading causes of painful death. On the other side of the spectrum, living in an unsettled environment where you have no certainty of accommodation is guaranteed to cause all sorts of social problems, the kinds of which you don't want living on your streets. So it turns out in Ireland, there are about 300,000 people without living relatives dying alone at home who own their own house, and there are about 8,000 to 10,000 families that are nearly homeless, that can't afford, their rent or their mortgage, and they will end up actually in the system. And once they're in the system, that's really painful. And so what In Homing does is it says, okay, you've got all these resources over here in all these houses, and you've got all these resources over here in all these young, bright people who are capable. Why not combine the two? We call it foster grandparenting. Creating homes for homeless families and social environments for people aging alone simultaneously. And yeah, it's not for everyone, right? We're not going to put a bunch of heroin addicts with a bunch of Alzheimer's patients, right? That won't work. But a homeless school teacher with 2 kids and a former headmistress, that might work. One of the other things that I'd like you to think about is, where are the low-hanging fruit? You know, if you are going to take a left turn and create something completely new, you've got 2 wrongs and you're going to make a left, right? Make sure you go after the easy bit first. When I first talked about Coder Dojo to people, everybody told me all the reasons why it couldn't be done. And they all cited what we call in the industry edge cases, right? You're never going to be able to get autistic kids to learn to code, together in a group. They don't like noise. Was one of the things a parent said to me, as if because I couldn't serve that, the whole idea was bad. Rubbish! And actually, Cope Foundation run a dojo for autistic kids and they love it. But even so, that was an edge case that was cited as an invalidation of the entire idea. And if you're going to take a left, people will look to invalidate your idea. Make sure you analyze and find the lowest of low-hanging fruit. Do the easy thing first. It's like if you're going to ask a favor from someone. Don't ask a big favor first. Ask for a little favor first. And then build up a favor track record. And then you might get a big favor. It's the same thing with traction. Get a little bit of traction and a little more. Get momentum. Do not try and eat the elephant first. And this is particularly true if you're going to take a left. If you're going to get off out of the rut and you're going to take a left, you're going to do something completely new. And by the way, when you do something completely new, that is the greatest place to create value. One of the things I'm kind of tired of as an investor is people coming to me and saying it literally is Airbnb for cats. I've actually had that pitch. Seriously? Like, you couldn't come up with something completely novel? You had to copy 2 other things? No. If you're going to come up with something, look for 2 things that really piss you off about the world. 2 things that you can care about. two things that you will get your juices flowing. Give them a name, bring them together and make them a reciprocal solution. And make sure that name can stick. Because if something's going to become a thing, people have got to care about it much more than you imagine. And people have got to spread the word. And Saturday Morning Programming Club for Kids is too long to spread. Be memorable. If you can find something to care about, or a couple of things to care about, and if the resources are there, and you can discover the resources, just by creating a flow for that, economists would call that a marketplace. But the reality is it's just opening up a flow between two areas. If you can do that, you deserve to make money at it. You could do it philanthropically too. I do. But you deserve to reap the benefits of that flow because you made that flow happen. But it won't happen unless you care about it. I've been involved in so many startups, even personally, the things that I've started. And if people don't care, if you can't get people to care, they will never do the work that's needed to be done. I mean, there's a guy here in the audience up the front who has worked harder than I've ever seen, right? He's run a business on the smell of an oily rag. And he does it because he cares about something. You don't get that from an employee. You can't just hire in talent to get a startup for something new. They have to care. And it's up to you to articulate it in such a way that they do care. So I'll give you a final example. We run accelerator programs at SOSV. We care about startup. But what do we really care about? I'll tell you what we really care about. We care about making impossible things inevitable. That means we create environments where companies come, they travel from all over the world. Like in Cork right now, I have 13 teams from as far away as Ecuador that are in a lab all together, slaving their guts out for 3 months in order to get something done, to change the world some way, because they all care. And what we care about is making those impossible things inevitable. We care about providing an environment that allows that to occur. And it's kind of weird, right? It is a bit of a left turn. For a start, as a venture capital firm, we're not supposed to be interested in very early stage investing. But our problem as a venture capital firm is not capital, it's quality of deal flow. On the other side, entrepreneurs, they're supposed to be lone wolves, right? Bullshit. Lone entrepreneurs only win in the movies, just like lone heroes only win in the movies. It's a team sport. So if you have this idea about lone entrepreneurship and you don't have team tools, guess what? That's a wrong. And if you're a VC and you're only looking at the latest of late stage investments, you never really get to know the team. That's another wrong. And so we took these two wrongs and we made a left. We created this environment, it's called an accelerator. We created a very special flavor of them where, unlike a sort of hothouse or an incubator where you might bring people to love them to death, it's a crucible. We punish them for 3 months. And at the end of the 3 months, they shine or they die. But they're prepared for the real world. They all have a great story. They all care about what they do, or they've gone. And they've all taken a left turn. Thank you very much.